Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another Life West Leadership Line. I'm Dr. Ron Oberstein, president of Life West. And today, coming from across the pond, I have Dr. Marc Hudson. Hey, Marc, how are you?
Doing very well, Ron. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's great to have you, brother. Dr. Marc and I go way back, and Marc is he's a 1994 graduate of Parker College in Texas. And right after graduation, Marc went right to Spain. Correct. And he's just been doing phenomenal things in Europe for the last 24 years. And we'll kind of jump into it. Marc, tell us your story. You know, I know you graduated and then obviously we just said you went right to Spain. You know, a new graduate going right to Spain and not knowing what to do. What was it like?
It was interesting. Let's put it that way. It was overwhelming. I went back to school as an adult, so I'd already been working, and I'm half French and half American. My mother's French, my father's American, and my wife is also half British, half American. So we've both grown up in both continents. And when we were going through school, we both decided that we wanted to move back to Europe. And so I think it was the beginning of my last year of school, decided that we wanted to work here. I went to a seminar in Paris looking for a job, basically just handing out CVs kind of thing, and got a job from a guy which actually got me over to Europe, and worked for this guy. And it was an unsuccessful relationship between the two of us. Neither of us liked each other. So that lasted about 4 months. And then depending on who you asked, he either fired me or I quit in disgust. But the deal was I was, like the whole story. I got a family, 2 young kids, and I'm $250,000 in debt, and I got zero money. $250,000 in debt included about $50,000 of credit card bills. And, it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? We got to do something right now. So we're on the mainland. We got on a ferry, put a car and stuff on a ferry, and moved to the island of Majorca. Majorca is an island in the middle of the Mediterranean, and which is an island I had lived at as a child, but didn't know anybody here as an adult, and started the practice from scratch.
Nice. And
there was one other couple practicing here, but no other chiropractors. And it's a tourist island. There's about 850,000 people that live here. Big tourist population in the summer, and beautiful place. You've been here, Ron. So started setting up. And at the beginning, I just copied what I had seen this other guy that I had worked for, whom I had not liked. I just copied his systems because it's all I knew. Muddled along with that for a couple of years, and it was very much sort of an old school European adapted Parker model, in that it was very, very low frequency of visits, lots of new patients, pain treatment. So you're adjusting people twice a week for 4 weeks kind of thing, and then immediately, within a couple of months, you're taking them out to once a month kind of thing. Very little continuity of care, and basically it's either the miracles are happening or they're not, and but people were receptive to it. And then, so about 2 years in practice, I could finally made enough money to afford to go back to the States to visit family, and we went on a family vacation. And it's funny because I went to a seminar I said I was going to take advantage of this trip to go on a couple of seminars. And I went to a seminar where my parents live. We were visiting them. And it was this guy who was a very, very slick practice manager. And he was, I didn't like him, but I knew that I needed something. So I was sort of on the verge of signing up with this guy. But I said, it's funny because next weekend I'm going to this other seminar. And I'm wondering what you think of this other seminar. And he said, I've been to Parker many times because I went to school at Parker. Is this seminar like Parker? And it was old DE, right? And he said, no, it's DE. He says, Parker's like a 3-ring circus. You're going to see everything under the sun at a Parker seminar. He says, DE is a room full of chiropractors who would lie in front of a bus for chiropractic. Mm. And that just shocked me because I had no idea what he was talking about. Yeah. And it was in DC. It was 97. And it was summer of 97. And I went there, and I'm sitting there on Thursday evening, and Sid Williams is asking the room, so how many of you are seeing 100 a week, right? People are, and I can't even raise my hand up because I'm seeing 80 a week, right? I can't even raise my hand up at the first cutoff, right? Which is really humbling. And, okay, so keep your hands up. How many of you are 200 a week, And there's this guy next to me, and it's this guy with I'll say, and I can't say anything now because I'm similar, but with let's say a copious abdomen, right? He's sitting there.
That's a
and
nice
he's got the Hawaiian shirt on. He's got these Hawaiian shirt on and these board shorts, and he's got, big Coke bottle glasses, and he's got these eyes that are tracking like this, right? And he's holding his hand up, and he says, 100 a week, 200 a week, 300 a week. And I'm just looking at this guy, and it's like 400 a week, 500 a week, 600 a week. I'm like, what the hell is this? 700 a week, 800 a week, 900 a week. Finally, he puts his hand down at 1,000 a week, right? There's about 3 or 4 other guys in the room. And I'm like looking at him in shock. Like, what in the world is this? Because this is a guy I had been taught going to Parker, my idea anyway. I don't even say I was taught this. But what I absorbed at Parker was that success, first of all, was 100 a day. That was the big number, right? And I know it's not about numbers, but anyway, we can get into that later. But success was 100 a day, and they were slick, right? The successful docs were slick. They wore the pointy suits, the 90s again, the pointy suits and the cowboy boots and the ostrich belts, and they chased lawyers, and it was a slick operation, right? And this guy didn't look slick at all. And so I go up to him afterwards, and I'm like, I try to figure out a question to ask him. And it's like, how do you see 900 a week? And he says something like, well, I just serve the people and, love on them and they get well. And I'm like, okay, this guy's weird. It turns out later that it's Gary Walsman, whom we all know, right? Future president of the ICA and one of the greatest servants and greatest chiropractic politicians ever, absolute lover.
And phenomenal upper cervical chiropractor. I mean, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Ever been adjusted by Gary Walsman? It's like, your life changes. I mean, just unbelievable.
Yeah. And later found out that his wife was traveling hours a day to go adjust everybody in the state legislature and the governors and the senators and all the rest of it. So, but I'm just seeing him on the weekend in board shorts and a Hawaiian shirt, right? And I'm trying to calculate this because the paradigm was so completely different. And then I was also blessed on the same trip and sort of got taken under Cliff Hardick's wing, right? Now, also a 900 a week chiropractor, in personality expression couldn't be more different than Gary Walsman, right? And I was just blown away, first of all, by the contrast between the two of them and by everything that I was hearing from everybody speaking, in that I'm seeing in the room a complete range of chiropractors from, crunchy granola Birkenstock wearing dreadlock dudes, to, Christian fundamentalists who are reconnecting people to Jesus Christ, right? You got this full spectrum from one to the other. And they're all attributing their success to the same principles and following this same message and this same vibe that Sid Williams and the team there was teaching and was spreading.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you,
let me share with you them because I think it's really important for our listeners to the one key thing and that you received, at DE. And this is not just at DE, it can be at other places also. But, I know it is at DE for sure. Where anybody will take you under their wing. A successful person will want to bring you up to be successful. Like you said with Cliff and Gary the same way. They would sit and talk to you till 4 a.m. to get your head right and to get your heart right, and not for them, but for the principle. For the people.
Yeah.
And but listen, you did that. Let's jump into like Europe, because here you go back, practice probably blows up, right? Because you got a different.
Well, it was gradual for me. So I wasn't one of these people that just immediately goes boom.
Yeah.
I got too much of this going on, right? So that can slow me down. But I very much, I got it and I wanted it. And what I wanted was the freedom that people were expressing themselves with in that room.
Yeah.
Okay. Because there was this big gulf for me between the way I am and the way I was presenting myself to my practice members.
Yeah.
And I was doing what I thought what I needed to be doing to be professional and, all the rest of it. I was playing doctor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was taught that it wasn't, that it was a much higher calling just to be true to me and to present that truth to the public. And that had much greater potential. And I'm not talking about just for growth, but that people would respond much more favorably to that.
Yeah.
And so it was very important for me. Like, I immediately came back and I'm telling my wife, Lynn, whom it's like, look, we got to do this. We got to do this. And of course she's like, oh, the idiot has gone and, done stupid again. And now he's insisting, we got 2 little kids, that I was insisting that she come to the States and go. And so I made a commitment at that meeting to go every 3 months to every meeting. And so it took me about 6 months to get her back on board, to get her on board with it. And we went, and she got it, and she was blown away by it as well. And she, we became partners together in this. And soon after that, had an unbelievable experience with Sigafoose and Dick Santo in Panama, in which I, an incompetent, know-nothing young chiropractor adjusts this baby who is paralyzed, who then becomes unparalyzed as a result of his incompetent adjustment, which completely changed things for me. And it put me on a path searching for what's the difference in that environment in Panama and what I'm seeing in my adjusting room on a day-to-day basis, and wanting my adjusting room on a day-to-day basis to have that same healing energy and that same environment as we managed to create in Panama. And so that sort of became the focus of my life and my practice at that point. And, it took, you have to learn how to run a business as well, because, it's different on a mission than it is in your actual office. And so, you got to fire CAs, and, you got to build your team around you, et cetera, et cetera. But I'd say going from about 80 a week within about 5 years, I'm seeing 850 a week.
Yeah.
And
that's not
before I had.
It doesn't matter if you explode up there, to get there and do it sanely and stay healthy and grow into it. Right. To me, that's sustainability, and
so we did that.
Yeah. And I love what you said, because you talked about, here they are dressed however they were just expressing themselves. Right. And, Mark, you've been seeing, a lot of people for a lot of years now, right? 20 plus years. And people, some people do this and then they just kind of crash and burn, right? And whether it's physical, whether it's mental, whatever it might be, right? It's like, and that's that incongruency that you talked about, that what you'd love to see was the congruency. They're not being themselves, right? And by you being yourself, or by Gary Walsman being himself, or Sigafoose being themselves, who you saw at the seminars, who you saw in the office, because they fell in love with the principle, right? And therefore, there's no tug and pull like this of trying to be, like you said, be the doctor or be the actor kind of thing, There's no role playing. There's no fakery about it. It's like, if I want to show up, and this is my ideal day in office, right? My ideal day is to show up. There's a reasonable amount of people waiting, because I don't do it got to the point where, so it was 800, I got an associate later, and we grew the practice to about 1,200 visits a week. And so there are times that I can remember that we had literally 50 people waiting to get adjusted. Right. And I don't want that anymore. Like, I've reached a point in my life where I don't want the pressure of 50 people back. Right. But I would love to have 7, 8, 10 people back all day long. And I say all day long, my shifts are now 3 hours. Well, they've always been 3 hours long, but I'm only working 6 shifts a week. So I'm only working 18 hours a week, in front of the public. And I want to get there at the beginning of the shift. I want to be busy throughout the whole shift with maybe, a couple of breaks to go to the bathroom and drink some water and whatever. And that's it. And then we finish the day, and then I get paid for it, and that miracles are happening, and that, there's just this beautiful vibe happening throughout the whole time. And I'm convinced that is possible and accessible for all chiropractors right now. Yeah, it is.
But it has to be very specifically designed and very diligently worked on. And when people come to my office now and they look at it and they think how easy it looks, well, there's a ton of work that went into that, ton of failures that went into that. Right. And it's a matter of sorting it out and, refining and refining and refining until it just becomes, all I do is walk in, and all I do is adjust.
Yeah.
Like I don't do any of the other work in my office. My team does all the first visits. They do the report of findings. You know, like literally all I do is on the first visit is palpate someone and then dictate to my CA the recommendation, you know, their plan of care, and that's it.
It's great.
And then for the report of findings, it's the same thing. You know, my CA does everything, and they come out to the adjusting room and they get adjusted. Right? And it's like I do nothing. Re-exams, my CA does everything. She talks about the care plan with them, everything, and I come back and I look at the piece of paper and I go, good. Now, and I adjust them.
Right.
So I do nothing other than adjust people all day long, and that seems to be unusual in the profession.
But you do a health talk, right? You do.
Yeah. So that's one of the things we do, and I've done for almost since the beginning. Is we do no, that's not true. It took me about 5 years to get the stones necessary to do it. But we do a mandatory pre-care class before people are allowed into the practice.
Yeah.
Okay. In which we explain to people what we do, what we don't do, you know, what's in it for them. And I consider that visit the most important visit in our office. And I really mean that. Like more important than the first visit, more important than getting adjusted. It's the explanation that people have where they say, okay, they don't necessarily say, I agree with you, but they say, okay, I'm willing to at least try this. I'll buy into you. Not buy into chiropractic, but I believe, at least I believe that you believe it. And you seem like you wash your hands and, you don't have a third eyeball in the middle of your head, and I'll try it at least.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
and if you can give them some inspiration along with that, it's even more powerful.
How often do you do the orientation?
I do it twice a week now. I've done them 3-4 times a week. I've done them once a week. You know, right now it's sort of because it's mandatory, because it's happening before people start caring. There's a big, like most of the people that I see are not first time acute people, right? That's not the people that we're seeing. And so there's this terrible fear that I'll lose this person if I don't attend to them like the very instant they call in. And if you're the person, the man or the woman to go to in your town, they'll make an effort and they'll stick around for you if you're that person.
Right.
So, it's a matter, and now I say, when we started, I was the second one. Now there's about 25 chiropractors where I practice. I got one across the street, one down the road, and it's no problem. There's plenty of work for everybody.
Absolutely.
And people are going to find, there's people doing just pain relief, and there's people doing model, copying our model, and there's a whole gamut.
So Mark, you've been, I know, you have tabs on everything that's going on in the States, obviously, tons of chiropractors here, the 80s and 90s were heavy insurance. And then, 2000 things started changing. And then, now, there's such an influx right now to a cash-based practice, right? Non-insurance driven practice. Maybe you give them a bill that they can submit themselves, but just not doing it. And the interesting thing for me is that you've been doing this. There's never been insurance.
Always, never had insurance.
Yeah, never. I mean, so you've had a quote unquote cash practice, right, for 25 years, whatever it is, right?
It was so literally cash that we only started taking credit cards about 2 years ago.
Seriously. So it was really just like cash, right?
Cash. Yeah, like wads of bills cash, that kind of cash.
Right. So
which is really sexy too.
Yeah, I know. So tell me, like, what, I mean, people are shifting right now over to cash, right? Now, the difference between the states is that people have health insurance. Maybe they have health insurance in Spain. Do they have governmental insurance in Spain?
No, they've got socialized medicine.
Okay.
People have private emergency health care. In other words, if I want to get into the hospital faster, I'll use my health care for catastrophic care, that kind of stuff. Okay. But no, they don't have health care that covers insurance.
So when they go to their medical doctor or they go to their whatever else, is it covered by insurance or is it just cash there?
When they go to their medical doctor, for most people, it's free as part of socialized medicine. Okay.
So that being the case,
so they're used to it being free.
Yes. Yeah. So going to you or the chiropractors there, being a cash, what did you learn about shifting? Because you never really had to play in the insurance industry because you left right away after school.
Right. So they get a higher level of service from us and a higher level of attentiveness from us than they get from the system. and they already understand that what we're doing is different, and they understand that obviously because I'm certainly hammering them with that in the class when they come into before they start care. So they're getting like this. Look, this is completely different. You're coming in with your medical paradigm, and you're this way of thinking, and this way of thinking about the spine, and this way of thinking about health and pain and all the rest of it. And what we're doing is completely different to what it is that you think and you've been brought up thinking. And so we're different right from the start. And what we do works.
Right. Okay.
And if you want it, this obviously we're not saying this verbally, but the underlying message is if you want it, you got to pay for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. And just like in the States, even though there's been limited insurance coverage for a long time, there's lots and lots of, or it'll only pay for a certain portion of care. There's lots and lots of chiropractors who are being very, very successful, selling $1,000 more than what's covered in their care. And it's literally by making it attractive to the person who's in. So it's not just having a good service. It's not just, it's being able to communicate to people in a way in which they perceive that what you're doing is of massive value.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And when they do that, when they get that, then they'll do whatever it takes to pay for your care.
It's great. That's great. And so,
I've got, I know that a lot of chiropractors like to go for the sort of the upper end of the market. I've got a very, very working class practice. And I've also got, multimillionaires and billionaires coming in, right? But, so it's a full spectrum, practice. I'm sort of a driver, obnoxious control freak type. And so when I get to, the captains of industry type that come in, sometimes there's a little bit of, like budding there. And those are more difficult for me to deal with than somebody, it's more difficult for them to accept me than somebody else in a different socioeconomic station in life, right? The people who are used to being catered to that way sometimes have a hard time with me because I'm not going to cater to them that way.
Yeah.
I'm going to treat them the same as everybody else because they're paying the same fee as everybody else, right? So, I had a woman come in, for instance, who said that she did a first visit and a report of findings a long time ago, chose not to start care because it wasn't possible for her at that time. And she came back like a year ago and said, thank goodness, this is a woman who's cleaning houses. Thank goodness I got fired from my job because the person couldn't afford to pay. I got fired from my job because now I have the time to come in. Okay, because her hours and my office hours didn't match, and she said, and I sold my car to be able to pay for care here. Okay, to me, that makes me want to cry just thinking about it. Okay, the level of commitment and the level of involvement that this woman has in her and coming in to receive chiropractic care, than somebody for whom it's just like hey, this is funny money, right?
Yeah, but it's also the value, you said that already, the value that you place on it, right? Your office places on it, on chiropractic. And then I think it goes back to what you said, what we talked about at the very beginning, where's the value within you? Like would you lay down in front of the bus, right? With that kind of conviction about chiropractic, right? Because that comes out. I mean, it's not verbal, that's that energy. That's that where they walk in, they go, I don't know what you're doing, but I know that and I trust you, right?
Yes.
I don't know you, but I'm going to give you my kid because I just have a feeling, I trust something within you. And people have to understand that is transmitted, right?
Yeah. So we're working with a lot of chiropractors right now because we've got clinics in the UK as well. And the thing that I'm seeing from them is, we'll call it juice, right? That when you squeeze somebody and the juice that comes out of them,
mm-hmm.
If you squeeze me, no matter what comes out of me, it's going to be chiropractic works no matter what you've got. I don't care if you've got cancer. I don't care if you've got, the worst, herniated disc ever. I don't care if, you got a third eyeball in the middle of your forehead. Chiropractic works every time. Every single adjustment works. Now, what sometimes doesn't work is the chiropractor being distracted or not being fully present. Yes, that is, we have to train ourselves to be able to work with the person throughout our whole adjusting shift, to be completely present and loving with them as we put our hands on them. But anything that they come back to us with, any question or any doubt or whatever, it's filtered through this. No, chiropractic works.
Yeah.
It works every time, no matter what you've got. I don't care, if we're talking about integrity to the nervous system, if we're talking about, salutogenesis, about people getting, better and stronger and their immune systems being boosted and, happier and healthier. And the transformation can come at an infinite different level of ways and levels. It can be an emotional recovery. It can be, people making better decisions in their life. It can be physical. But it happens all the time. The chiropractic adjustment is the shifting point for people's lives. And I don't care what rational argument you want to put before me, I'm not going to play that game. No, this works. I don't have to justify it to you. I don't have to stop and say, okay, Ron, well, let me explain how the transmitters in the I don't know what do this, which there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that. It's just that I don't want to spend my time and energy living in that space. And I know that you're the same. And thank God we've got the Dan Murphys of the world and the Heidi Hobbies of the world who can, make those arguments for me. But when I'm there adjusting people, what I want to do is I just want to be completely in love with the person who's there, put my hands on them, adjust them, love on them some more, and then move to the next person.
Yeah. We used to call them black holes. You're flowing. You get to a table, and it's kind of like, well, prove this. And I'm not sure if this really works. It's kind of like you just want to say, that's okay. Stay in your paradigm. Next, that kind of thing. Yeah. Mark, I people have to know this, and I'm just going to share this, that, of course, you've had one of the busiest practices in Europe for the last 20-something years. You've put on a phenomenal program. You have Chiro Europe. That you and your wife Lynn put on. It's in Malaga, and you do it in October, I believe, and also April's the big one.
April and October, yeah.
April and October, you get 750 to 1,000 chiropractors there, and their CAs, people from all over, from the States, from Australia, from New Zealand, from all over Europe. I mean, it's really, and I've been there many times, and it's a phenomenal program. So. We'll put a tag down below for people to get to the website so that they can check it out and see and think about going. Plus, it's a wonderful thing to do to take a week and go to Spain, because it's a gorgeous country. So you hang out for a few days, see some things, go to Portugal, whatever, and then just jump over. Where do you see the future? And I know you have clinics in England, so if people are looking to practice in England, they can reach out to you, and we'll put that down also below so they can grab that.
I've got openings right now. I can put someone into practice tomorrow.
Good. So we'll put that out. Where do you see the future? We're going to wrap up in a second here, but tell us where you see the future of chiropractic in Europe going. What's the vision?
Well, right now, and we discussed this before, but in the States, right now here in Europe, there's never been a better time to be a chiropractor. And I'm talking right now, COVID times. Okay, the public is anchoring to our offices. As long as we don't come off as crazy and foaming at the mouth, and as long as we're not pushing them away, they are flocking to us. Yeah. We're the place they can come to. We're nurturing them. We're giving them a different message, and they are really responding to that. Like numbers are I know chiropractors right now who are having their best months ever, and I know chiropractors having their worst months ever. And the only difference is what they think. It's not what they're doing. It's not what they're saying. It's not their systems. It's literally what they're thinking is determining their external environment as well. And so to take that then to the bigger scene of chiropractic, we're in a place in chiropractic right now in Europe where there is a majority of either non-vitalistic or I would say weak chiropractic schools. Okay? And the graduates from the schools are...
is it more therapeutic based?
It's much more therapeutic. I'm trying not to be mean or insulting or whatever, but yeah, it's on a philosophically, it's on a very low level. And then for a lot of them as well, people are afraid to adjust. Okay. And I'm not faulting the schools. Well, some of them I am, but I'm not, it's just the culture. The culture has emerged and chiropractors are weak. And anybody who's been in our profession for any amount of time has seen this over and over and over again. And it's not just here in Europe, it's all over the world. And however, the core of chiropractors who are finding vitalism, some of them it's rediscovering it and it becoming okay. But for most of the chiropractors, the young chiropractors that I deal with, it's like this is a completely new world to them. And when they see it and when they embrace it, their practices are unbelievably strong and unbelievably powerful.
Yeah.
Like it's easy. Like if you're the only one who's doing this thing, it just becomes incredibly easy to succeed with it. And so then in terms of the politics of it, there's been this tug and pull between the old school organizations who don't want that to happen, who want to go down, the medical model and acceptance into the larger medical system. There's that. Trying to suppress chiropractors, sort of actively trying to suppress chiropractors, and then the chiropractors who are finally getting strong enough, because I've been involved in politics here for 20 plus years as well, who are finally getting strong enough to say, we're going to do it this way. And there's enough young chiropractors following that path that the actual tone and timbre of the profession is changing. Now, are there challenges ahead? Of course there are. The other side's not going to give up, but
it's a good time, right? It's a good time to come to Europe.
Oh, it's a great time to come here. It is so easy to succeed here.
Yeah.
The limit is literally just how much do you want to put into it.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, and I've seen you in Spain for probably the last 20 years, probably I don't know, 18 years. I'm not sure, but people just come over and they just go to a town. There's no chiropractors in the town. Open up, people start coming, they get to educate them on what chiropractic is, and there's not a lot of this. It might be different like in Barcelona or different in London or wherever we got high density of chiropractors who are practicing more of a mechanistic model, but it's just so cool that what I see in Spain at least, they drop into a town and it's like, I need help. Come over, right? They want to have.
Yeah, there's still places, centers of populations of 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 that don't have a chiropractor.
No chiropractor. I mean, it's so beautiful. Well, Marc, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for who you are, number one, man, and all. I don't know, I think it was by default, not by design, and that's why I really want to thank you for carrying the torch in Europe and for mentoring so many. Young chiropractors and older chiropractors, right? Turning their light on, like when you're at DE and you're next to Gary Walsman, and then what Cliff Hardick did for you. It just kind of happens. It's a responsibility. I think it's about laying down in front of the bus, and then someone laying down in front of you, and who doesn't know why are we laying down, right? And then you get to kind of tell them what's going on. But thank you for that, because I know it takes a lot, dude. I know it takes a lot. The seminar alone, I mean, they have a seminar, 750 to 1,000 people. It's like, that's like huge. And it's a lot of energy, and you're still in the trenches, still practicing, running clinics in England, doing all these things. So thank you, man.
Well, thank you. And very much looking forward to tomorrow's Diwali, I think, right?
Yeah, it is.
We should be going to India next week.
Marc and I, we've served, I don't know, how many times have we been to India together, right? At the Sant Nirankari mission where Life West serves them. And I always tell people, we bring, 20 to 25 people from Life West. And there's another 25 DCs who come from around the world. And it's Marc. I mean, Marc's pretty Marc and Lynn, but you guys are pretty much in charge of that. And people, connect with you, and then they connect with me because they go, I can't get on from because it's already sold out. Can you do something? That kind of thing. But people want to go. It's just incredible. We see so many people, and that's where the miracles are, really. It's beautiful. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate Lynn. Please tell her thank you from us here at Life West for all you do. We will have the websites listed, or they were already listed, on where people can kind of get in contact with you for the European group, for Chiro Europe, and then whatever questions they have for you. Just thank you, Marc. I appreciate you. So,
Thank you, Ron.
So for all of our listeners and who viewed in on this, we appreciate you. I mean, there's a lot of golden nuggets that were delivered there. And I think the big thing that I got was like, it's our authenticity, not just who we are, but who we are in chiropractic, right? And that's where that authenticity comes from for when we go in practice, right? And go and serve our people. So, but there's a lot more there. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being with us, for being a supporter of Life West. Keep living your life from above, down, inside out, and sharing your love for everyone that you get to meet, because you never know that person that you share love with. You could have been having a day that they were actually going to do something different, and your love made the difference. So please remember that. And I love and appreciate you, and I'll be back with you in a few weeks at our next leadership line. Thank you.